afternoon. We on? It's okay. I would like to welcome you all to the Jazz and Heritage Festival. And this is, as you can see, the Cultural Crossroads tent. And we're basically talking about the connections between Haiti and New Orleans. And first, I would also like to recognize our sponsors for this particular tent and the panels for the next few days. We had 3 yesterday, we have 3 today, and we have 3 tomorrow, just in case you're just coming here for the first time. The Green Family Foundation and the Louisiana Endowment of the Arts were the sponsors for this tent. We're really wanting to sort of illuminate the history and the culture of Haiti and Louisiana. And we've been focusing a lot on New Orleans, of course, but there's only so much we can do, like really touching the surface in these 3 days. But we would like to at least let you know and experience some of the culture. And I would just encourage you to look in the other areas. There's the whole Haitian Pavilion on the other side of Congo Square. There are things going on at Grandstand. We just had a rah-rah parade. And so there's just Haitian culture all over Jazz Fest this year. And I would like for you to really try and check out some of the other areas. But this is an important tent. You're in an important place today. And we just want to give you some things. We want to dispel some myths. We want to talk about Afro-based religion that is, you might say, creolized construction. And hopefully we will leave some time for you to ask questions and we can have some interactions with our distinguished panelists here today. I would just like to start and introduce them. I'm just going to say a couple of words about each one, and as we get to them, they'll say more about themselves. To my immediate right is Richard Morse, and Richard Morse is the director of RAM, who is, that is a musical band, and he is from Haiti, and he will be telling you more about that and his interest and what he does in accordance to Voodoo. To my immediate left, we have Elmer, who is a priest here in New Orleans, a Voodoo priest here in New Orleans, and we'll learn more about him as we go along. And next to Elmer is Mama Lola, and her name is Auntie, I may be pronouncing it wrong, Auntie Aluvinsky. And she's a well-known Voodoo priest. She lives in New Orleans. She's of Haitian descent, and she's an elder in the tradition, and very well known. And so she's going to talk a little bit more about herself a little later. And then we have Florence Jean-Josie, is a Mambu Asongwe, who was born and raised in Haiti also, and she's here with us to share some information on the tradition. And then, of course, for those of you from New Orleans, you know we have Bill Summers, who is an extraordinary drummer and priest in some respects himself, right? Yeah, I said, and also a priest. And yeah, and then like why he's going to talk about that a little bit later, and also some of the musical traditions. So, where would we start? I decided that since there are so many misconceptions, there are so many, even with the word voodoo, Vaudou, depending on what perspective you're coming from. I've seen, I think, at least 6 different spellings of the word. So we're going to start directly with the term voodoo. And I'm going to ask some of the practitioners, what is their preferred term in the tradition? So what do you prefer?
Vaudou, V-O-D-O-U, which is the French term, directly from Fon, which means sacred. It's a sacred, and we work with the divine in us, and we learn the mystery of nature from that.
Okay,
so it's V-O-D-O-U.
Okay. And as I speak, whoever would want to just join in, just feel free to do so. Let's start at looking at the origins of the religion. Who would like to start first? Just to give us a very brief. I know it's very complex here, but
You want me to talk a little bit?
Sure.
I'll do a little something.
okay.
First of all, my name is Richard. I'm guessing that most people just don't even know what voodoo is. Am I correct? I'm gonna try and break it down, deconstruct it for you. All right. Most people know what Protestant is, right? Protestant religion. Normally, they pray to God, they pray to the Holy Trinity, and they pray to Jesus Christ. Right? Catholic, they pray to God, the Holy Trinity, Jesus Christ, and the saints. And they have a Day of the Dead. Right? And in Voodoo, they pray to God, the Holy Trinity, Jesus Christ, all the male saints in the heavens as on the earth, all the female saints in the heavens as on the earth, the voodoo spirits, the pantheon of voodoo spirits, the dead, and the ancestors. So as you see, it's a longer litany, it's a longer prayer system. Voodoo is Old Testament and New Testament. The Jewish religion is Old Testament, not New Testament. Catholic and Protestant is New Testament, and they have a respect for the Old Testament. In the United States, we have a holiday that is like a voodoo ceremony. And whenever I tell people this, they think Halloween. But the actual ceremony that is most like voodoo is Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving is a table, it's an offering, it's a sacrifice, because in the old days they would kill the turkey. And it was giving thanks to the spirit, probably of the harvest. And when we first came to this world and met with the Indians, it was a similar ceremony that they probably taught the pilgrims, where you give thanks to the spirit because after the harvest. And so this is very close to the way the voodoo works, in that you're giving thanks, and you have a prayer system that starts with God and works its way through the different sectors. I'm hoping this all makes sense to you. People often think that voodoo is sorcery. They always think that you do voodoo and it's to do something to somebody. There is sorcery in many traditions, whether it's English, French. There's sorcery all over the place. People who do voodoo often know how to do sorcery, but voodoo is a prayer system. It's a prayer. It's a way of praying to God, and sorcery is sorcery, and that is not what voodoo is about. Although there are people who do voodoo that know how to do sorcery. Is that an introduction?
I guess you could say that's an introduction. But we want to look at really the African origins of the religion too. Could someone speak to that?
Well, since I'm from New Orleans, we use the phonetic spelling of VOODOO, and that word means Spirit of God, God created the universe, introspection to the unknown, all things holy, sacred, and divine. And God is the totality of all existence, seen and unseen. And in the Voodoo belief system, we deal with the spiritual deification of nature and the spiritual deification of the ancestors. That's where we draw our strength from. The African spelling is Voudou, V-O-D-O-U-N. The Haitian spelling is V-O-U-D-O-U. I'll let somebody else speak about the origin.
It's the religion originated in Africa, and our African ancestors brought their religion with them to the island of Haiti when, at the time of the slave trade, when we were forced to go to Haiti. And there we met with the native Indians who were already on the land, the fact that we all divine, created from God who is divine, and we have the divine in us. Our divinity met the divinity of the native Indian in Haiti, and we join our forces together. It's really from Africa and into Haiti.
I'm a musician, and we take rhythms, we take songs, and we modernize them. But in terms of African heritage, the best way for me to describe where it comes from is how we name our rhythms. For instance, we use Igbo rhythms, we use Nago rhythms, we use Congo rhythms, we use Dahomey rhythms, we use Mai rhythms, and these are different tribal names in different parts of Africa. Where I assume the slave trade was taking people and bringing them to Haiti. There is a system of prayer using these rhythms, and at the time of independence, these rhythms were expanded by mixing the slaves who had escaped, mixed with the Indians who were living on the island, and they developed a new set of rhythms, a new set of ceremonies. So the African ceremonies, we call them the Rada ceremonies, R-A-D-A. And the ceremonies that were developed on the island of Haiti, we call the Petro ceremonies. And when we do a complete ceremony, we'll start with the Rada rhythms, the African rhythms, and then we expand into the Petro rhythms. I don't know historically. I haven't read. I'm not an academic. This is just from the standpoint of a musician who I've known many academics, but so you have to forgive some of my lack of knowledge. But the ceremonies are broken down into the African heritage, which is the Gada, and the Haitian heritage, which is the Petro. And you can recognize the different heritages because in the drums, in the Gada drums, they have the pegs in the drums. Those are the African drums, and they tune them by hammering the pegs. I don't know if you've seen them do that. And you'll notice in the Haitian drums, they have chord. They're tuned with the chord, and they tighten the skin by tightening the chord. And the Haitian rhythms are hotter. The Haitian rhythms are we're more violent and we're more war. The difference between Africa and Haitian, you might say, is even in at our time of independence, the British form of fighting was everyone would line up. I don't know if you remembered this, and then it was very formal way of fighting. And then the colonists had to develop a system where they would all just be scattered all over in the trees, and so the different kinds of rhythms is the African rhythms are more formal, and the Haitian rhythms are more complicated but just hot, just. I don't know how that.
If I may add something, okay, we need to keep into mind, like Haiti, different African tribes actually met into Haiti. And we are the fusion of
which
all
is
African powers.
The Igbo, the Nagos,
exactly, and the
Congos.
native. And we cannot forget our French heritage. I know as much as we're not proud of the French heritage, but they are part of us, and we honor them in Voodoo too. They are our ancestors. And the Indians are our ancestors, and the Spaniards too. Haiti is like a place of unity where all children of God met. Different ways, some of us are not too proud of it, but this is a unity, like it's the point of unity where we all met and to be the one of the universe.
I'd like to ask Mama Lola, could you speak to the issues of what you feel that is really African from the tradition, and then what you feel that has come up through the Haitian synthesis?
I can't tell you I have African blood. My great-great-grandfather,
Mike, close.
hello, I can't tell you, I'm sorry. I got African blood too. Because my great grandfather, La Famille Bouvin, in Africa, that's my mother grandparent. But that is French, Champagne. But my mother come from very deep Congo naive. So mommy from country, or daddy from, I don't know, from France. You know? So that's why I had the wisdom of voodoo and spirit. I was 7 years, I was in school, and I got something, I don't know, because I was children. They called mommy, and let mommy come in, and the spirit talked to mommy. And he said, Alud Mambo, Alud Mambo, Alud Mambo. Mommy said, no, Alud is 7 years old, he can be a Mambo. I am, not Alud. Sweetheart, but I am.
And so you're saying that it took you 7 years?
I was 7 years old.
You were 7 years old when you started learning?
No, I don't learn, no. I don't learn in 7 years old.
Right.
But let us 7 years old, like, the school say I'm crazy. So they call my mother, for my mother to bring me to the doctor. But let my mother come and I have spirit in my head at 7 years old. And mommy cried, mommy said no. And so they some ceremony, and they put something in my head. They say, Alud Babo, Alud Babo, Alud Babo. Mommy said no. But let I get old now. I don't know, I learn, I don't know how I learn. But the spirit, God and the spirit helped me to learn. So there I am now. Thank you.
Thank you. Elmer, would you like to tell us how did you come about? I remember Elmer a long time ago. He was actually my karate teacher, and I remember he would tell the class that I have to go for a while, and he would go and leave and go to Haiti. And he never did really tell us what he was doing in Haiti. And it was years later that I found out what he was really doing in Haiti. So could you really just kind of tell us about how you started, how you got into being a Haitian voodoo priestess? I mean, not Haitian, but
I guess
voodoo
my
priest.
sojourn began in New Orleans. I opened up a karate school in 1926 Canal. And unbeknown for 20 years, there was a cemetery built under the building. And I was constantly having these encounters with spirits talking to me, telling me, showing me things about people that entered my school. At night when the lights were on, the spirit would walk across the floor. You could hear them walking. And they would open and close doors. So there was a lot of phenomena going in this building. What happened to me in 1980, I happened to meet what is called a palero, which is the Cuban Congo Bantu religion. And he gave me a reading, and he threw the shells, divination shells on the mat, and he said, you're gonna be a voodoo priest. And I said, man, you must be lying to me. I'm a Catholic, and I didn't come up with voodoo, but he said, you're gonna be that. So as time passed, I had started meeting a lot of voodoo people. For a while I thought I was nuts, you know, something was wrong. But what I realized, like attracts like. So my experience began with a travel to Brazil in 1980, travel to Dutch Guyana in 1982, and in 1983 to 1993, I went to Haiti for several voodoo initiations. In the temple that I was initiated, did Rada, Petro, and Bizango. Bizango is more or less esoteric voodoo. It deals a lot with magic. And I've been practicing in New Orleans, not so much as a priest, but more as a magician to help people solve their problems.
Okay, Bill, would you talk to us about how did you start becoming a priest and sort of like the process? And
I think it'd take too long.
Give us a very brief.
I'll try. It's very difficult. Well, you know, number one, voodoo. Let's really deal with the real deal. For me, first of all, she had to speak before I would speak. That's part of voodoo. But she is the elder. It's her position. She's the mother. So, I mean, out of respect, I'm not going to say nothing till this woman speaks. She deserves that Seniority and respect is extremely important in the hierarchy of what people know as voodoo. There are different names for it. They all come from the same root. What I'm into is not considered Vaudou in Haiti for some people, but the Haitians who know what I'm into know it is the same thing. Okay, so we have been divided, unfortunately, again, separated and divided. And like I said, as to try to explain to you the in-depth part of my life and make it brief is very difficult, but I'll try to do it as fast as I can. When I was a very young kid, I was raised Catholic as he was. I was an altar boy in the church, and at that time they did not speak English in the church for Mass. I spoke Latin, and I had to learn a liturgy, and I was trained, and it was a very rigorous training. Okay, I was very unhappy in the Catholic Church. I did not identify with it. I did not like the Pope. I did not like the nuns because they were not kind to me. The religion, the Christian religion, which I'm still a part of, I'm proud of my Catholic heritage, my Christian heritage, because Christ was a good man. It stops there. Okay, the rest of it is BS to me. Okay, I was lacking identity of the traditions that I think that I needed to have in my life were being kept from me. So I had alternatives. I could be a black Muslim, or I could be a Catholic or a Baptist or a Holy Roller or whatever else that was there. Okay, so one day I happened to be taken to a house of a Cuban friend when I was very young, and there was something by the door. And when I looked by the door, I saw a stone with some cowrie shell eyes and a mouth, and something sticking up out the top of it, and I was very drawn to it. So what is that? That's Eshu, or one of the names for Eshu is Elegua. So from that experience, I was taken to a ceremony, and I'm a musician as he is, and I was taken to a ceremony, and this is what happened to me. I could hear the drums as I approached the house. And I'm a trained musician. I studied 10 years in the conservatory playing classical music from the age of 5 till I was 16, till I could tell my parents, I'm not going no more. You know what I'm saying? I ain't going no more. So at any rate, I know music. I knew music. And when I heard these drums, I knew that that was classical music. I knew it was classical music. Understand this, the Haitians, the Africans, the Cubans, if it's Palo or whatever it is, Rada, Arara, Kimbisa, Lukumi, whatever you want to, Candomblé, Macumba, I don't care what you call it, it's from, it originates from Benin, from Dahomey. This is the root of it, and that word was created in that area. So for me, what got me involved in it was the need to identify important parts of my life as a black man. Because, and I grew up in the civil rights movement. Okay, so the identity factor was a very important thing. So when I went to the ceremony, I'm gonna wind this up, I went to the ceremony and they took me downstairs and there were 3 guys playing drums. They were called Bata. They're not Rada, they're not Petwo, but they're part of the Vaudou history. They are the sacred drums of Hevioso and Shango. Okay, and anyone who knows about Shango, he is in Haiti, he is in Brazil, he is in New Orleans, he's in New York, and he's everywhere else you want him to be. So I saw these drums, I listened to the music, and at one point while the drums were playing, a woman came out and started dancing. And I noticed that at a certain point when the drums were playing, and it took a long time too, it was like a whole liturgy of stuff that went on, but I noticed she started rocking a little bit, and then her head went back, and she grabbed the back of her head and started doing like that, and I said, well, that's what something's going on here. So that experience led me to want to know more, because I like the music so much. So I became, a while later I started studying the drums. And with the Haitian drums around in Petro, Congo, and all that they do, there is no improvisation. In this drumming, there is no improvisation. So later on, I was initiated into a fraternity, one of the two remaining fraternities that survived the slave trade. It's called Anya or Ayan in Africa. And you have to commit about 200 or 300 rhythms to memory to be in this fraternity. So my son is here somewhere. When I would play ceremonies in LA, I'd sit my son on my lap, and he would he'd lay his head on the drums and go to sleep as we play the ceremony. So this is how I got involved.
For sure, I'm Mama Florence, and the call came in. Actually, I was announced. They told my mother was the one claiming. But considering all the prejudice in Haiti about Voodoo, and coming from one of the families, I'm from the south of Haiti, and my family is pretty well known in Haiti. So it was something that they have to keep hidden. So my mother could not do what she was called to do. Then it's a very long story, but I'll tell you as much as you need to know. Then they said, okay, if we cannot have her, because they have her spent 10 years, she wasn't able to walk because she used to be going, and then they said, okay, if you don't want it, you have a choice. When you get a call, you have a choice to say yes or no. Each choice has its consequences. So they told her, okay, you don't want to do it, the parents don't want her to get involved in Voodoo, so we'll send another child, another mambo. And that was me, and they know when I came who I was supposed to be. In the church, because my family was so much involved, because back in the country in Haiti, we don't have hotels where, like, when visitors come, like if the Pope were to go to the south of Haiti way back, they wouldn't have a hotel room to receive. So the families who are well established, who has the space, will accommodate and receive the visitors. And my family was one of those. So the priests in the town and other nuns, they knew the story. That was the secret of the family. And then they said, okay, this is so strong because the spirit used to come and do so much where they see. And then they said, okay, so with you, I think it's okay, because it used to be like in the Catholic Church. If you practice Voodoo, they tell you you're worshiping two different gods. So but the Catholic priest, sure enough, give them the blessing. You can do it in secret, don't let anybody know. So when I came to the world, with the Christian belief that if you practice Voodoo, it's something forbidden. My godfather was from the Baptist church in town. He was the pastor of the church. So the priest says, so I heard, and my godfather says, okay, we don't want her to get involved in that, so I'll take her to the Baptist church, which have their presentation of babies the first of the month. I was born February 2nd, so they had to wait for March, for the first Sunday in March, to take me into the Baptist church. So I wouldn't have to be dealing with the law and all that. But the priest in town, the Catholic priest, heard that my grandfather was coming to get me. So they came to the house and say, they baptized me at home. They said, we baptized a Catholic. So the story went and beyond, and then I used to do things my friends would say, but everybody knew but never told me, and I found out until I was older. But with the church, I always felt I was like different from my other classmates. So I even went to the Catholic Church and became a nun. And then in the convent, I felt, no, there's something missing. And I left, I went to Jehovah's Witnesses, Adventists, everywhere, every religion I went, because nobody will tell me this is Voodoo. They did not practice it at home. I never saw. But later on, I found out they used to go to the habitation outside of town and do their ceremony. So, and then from the Catholic Church, I left the church. And then I went to a conference with Dr. Frank. His soul, he passed away. Dr. Frank, Henry Frank, everybody know in New York. And then he was talking about kids who were not even born in Haiti, who were being mounted. They used to call him in school assuming that the child was crazy, and then they found out the child was mounted by a spirit. And then I said, oh my God, I find myself in there. But my friends who brought me over, sitting at the table, I was about to say, like, oh, I used to get like that too. But my girlfriend said, oh my God, it's so embarrassing. So I kept my mouth shut. So later on, I sneak in and got Dr. Frank's card. And then I said, Dr. Frank, everything you were saying there, I get like that sometimes too, but nobody will explain to me what it was. My father used to tell me, pray and renounce. I said, renounce what? Pray and renounce what? So Dr. Frank introduced me to Mommy Lola, my mother. And then I became a mumbo. But the thing is, like,
various religions here to find
on the path, yeah. But all I can say is like we all one. It's the way we practice our faith.
Yes.
But we all one. There's no like Christianity and this and there. We are all one.
Yes, because I was going to ask you too, and as well as Mama Lola, what other aspects of, you know, other cultural practices or other religions that, you know, because it's all a synthesis. So it's very hard to sort of demarcate what's what and what came from what, although we try to talk about it. But could you just maybe speak to that, the synthesis of other cultural practices in Voodoo?
In Voodoo, it's like you are God. You are your own God, where you are able to do, if you like keep yourself in harmony with the spirits and God, because we worship God through the spirits, and the Loas are our intermediaries between God and the spirit, where we get direct communications. You could be doing something and the Loa will come and say, stop that, stop doing this. It's like a parent right behind you, next to you, telling you, keeping you going the straight line. So if you like keep yourself in harmony with the spirit, so they can bring you the messages of God, that's all the religion we do together, and I believe that's where we're going to meet and be one, and there won't be no one who fighting this is mine and ours, because we have that common, the common denomination. It's like we are all divine, living a human life. We need to live more of our divine nature so we can feel each other, and there won't be like, I originated in Africa. Africa gave the lead because they accepted themselves as they are divine and work their life according to their divinity.
Could someone just speak to us? I know there are some differences, well, a lot of differences, but there's some confusion as to the various types of Afro-based religions in the diaspora. So, okay, in Haiti, Voodoo, Santeria, Cuba, and Candomblé in Brazil. So could someone just kind of speak to that and see what is the base? You might say, we know the base is the Afro deities, but can you talk to like what are some of the other differences in those, like Vaudou, Santeria, Candomblé?
For me, my personal experience, it's like in all the religion, Christian, whichever, there are people who are claim as you have the vocation to do something, or people who go in the vocation practice for the business or the commercial part of it. If you are claimed to be either in Santeria, Candomblé, and all that, there won't be no difference. There is no difference at that level. As a Voodoo priestess, I have been to Santeria, which is very strict. If you're not crowned, they will not allow you to even sit by the drums. And I will walk in, and then they will bow to me like I'm crowned, where we will get the connection, but we have to go to the higher level or above that to meet that connection. And I have been to different Candomblé parlors. When I work there, I'm telling the lady, you are crowned? I said, no, I'm only a Voodoo mambo. She said, no, why are you hiding? I know when somebody is crowned. And then the spirit came and told me, if you are on the same level, if you are claimed not be trying to assemble all spiritual princes and princesses, so when you meet each other, you feel the vibration. And you know that's your sister, there's no difference, but it's the one God, whichever way we serve them. So if you allow yourself to live the life of God, and then there won't be no difference.
Okay. Mama Lola, would you want to speak to that too? The various Afro-based religions?
Let me tell you about my experience. I initiate some ladder people.
Keep the mic.
Okay. Hello. Hello. You heard that? Okay. I initiate ladder people come from Cuba. The Santeria. They are American Gredja, and one of the women. But let I finish initiate them. You don't tell us about voodoo. Very intense. But me, I say, I'm coming to California. Can I initiate in Santeria? They say, if you want to, Mama Mila, it's not the same ceremony. It's more hard. But I'm so glad and I'm happy. I'm a Santeria. I love it. It's not the same thing like voodoo. That's too different. But it's more close to church, Santeria, than voodoo. You understand? But I love it.
By contemplate.
I don't know nothing about contemplate. I initiate in Santeria.
Okay.
By me, we are Congretia, my goddaughter.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bill, you want to speak to that?
Whoa. So this is deep. I mean, I don't know if you guys even understand some of the things that are being said up here. Let me say, I'm a priest. I was initiated a priest many years ago. I was initiated a priest of El Igual in Havana, Cuba. And I was given Anya drums from Chacha Esteban Vega de Bacallao y Alo de Oshun de Matanzas, who was the heaviest drummer in Cuba. He is now Ibaye, gone, dead. He passed last year. And I want to say something. I am not a Santeria priest. Santeria is not the word, it's Lukumi, okay? Santeria is a word developed by the Spanish because they wanted to get inside of it and start dealing with it, so they used that word, and it was associated with the syncretism of the Catholic saints with the Orisha, or Lola, or whatever you want to call it. This phenomenon, now the Haitians were not communicating with the candomblé priestesses and priests in Brazil during slavery. Slaves didn't have them kind of rights, and they wasn't sending letters to each other. Neither did they do this in a lot of the other countries that black slaves went to. I want to say something. For me, there's no difference in Vaudou and Lukumi, or what they call Santeria. I'm sorry. There's no difference because it's the same Orishas and the same Lola. Mammy Waters is Yemaja. Yemoja, Yeye, mother, Omo, children, Eja of the fish, mother of the children of the fish. And that's Mammy Waters every day, anywhere in the world. So this what has happened also is a political thing. We have been, our religions are, the people that came from the Congo went to Haiti. They went to Cuba. They call it Palo Mayombe. Some of them went to Venezuela. Some of them went to other places, but Congo is Congo. You cannot take a Congolese man. He speaks Congo. They have a dance here that they did in Congo Square they call it incorrectly now, Bambula. It's Bambula. The Bambula is a Congo word. Okay, and this tradition goes through every slave-holding country that ever put a enslaved person anywhere in the Americas. We are the same people from the same root, and there's just different ways of doing it. The Spanish colonized some of us, the French did it, the Portuguese did it, they all did it, and that made us Catholics. We were forced to be Catholics. And so what the Africans did in Haiti, and they did everywhere else, they said, okay, I'm a Catholic now. And then they said, but in Cuba, they said the Virgin de Mercedes is Yemaja, because the sailors used her as a representation of protection. Okay, so they hid their religion. Black people had to hide what they were doing, and they did it here in New Orleans, and they did it in Haiti, and they did it in Cuba, and they did it in Brazil. It's no difference. We're the same people, same blood running through our veins. We were enslaved people, and we are confused. And these religions are helping us heal ourselves and bring ourselves back to some kind of decency and some kind of reality about our own destiny and where we want to go. That's how I look at it. That's just my opinion.
Would you like to speak to Elmer?
I think there are more similarities than difference. If we go back to Dome, where voodoo originated, the term, we find it originates from the Iwe and Fon speaking people in Benin. Their next door neighbor are the Nigerians of the Yoruba culture in southwestern Nigeria. They have a divination system called Ifa, and their tradition is the Orisha tradition. The slaves from Dahomey, entered Haiti. Of course, the predominant pantheon in Haiti is from Dahomey, and there's some what is called Nago, which is more Yoruba influence, but the Yoruba influence is found more in Cuba, Puerto Rico, and Brazil, because the majority of slaves that came into the Western Hemisphere were Yoruba people, but there's also Congo people. Now here in New Orleans, our main influence has been Congo, because according to the study of Louisa Tish and Sushel Bibbs, 10% of the people that came to New Orleans were Fon, 30% were Senegalese Gambians, and the other 60% were Congo people. And there's a relationship between New Orleans Voodoo, Palo Mayumbi, Jamaican Obia, and also Kimbanda of Brazil, because they're more Congolese traditions that deal with what is called the Inkisi, or spirits of the dead or ancestors. So in New Orleans, we have more of a magical practice. And how we can tell it's Congolese influence is because Marie Laveau used the word Le Grand Zombie, which is the name of God in the Congo. So we see the connection with the Congo influence.
So you think, because that was actually one of my next questions, the differences between voodoo in Haiti and voodoo in New Orleans after the migration, after the revolution, and all the Haitians, white and black, came into New Orleans, and I was basically, so you're saying that it's because of the different ethnic groups?
Right.
And I must say that in the early 1700s, 1720s, 1730s, it was Senegambians that came in first, and then some of the other groups, the Yoruba, Congo, came in later after, much later after the revolution and during the revolution. So
and then we have
that's the major.
Right, and also we have to remember that the Congolese people back in 1491 were converted to Catholicism through the Portuguese. There was either a king or a queen named Nzinga who converted people to Catholicism. So the Catholic and African synchronization of the people who came to New Orleans, they already knew about the Catholic religion, and they began to associate certain Catholic saints with certain African spirits.
Okay. And just one other question, we're going to open it up to the audience. I wanted to talk about a little bit about the commodification, commercialization of voodoo these days in New Orleans and other areas. Could you just speak to something, just for a moment, like the voodoo tourism here, because that's really how some of the myths have been perpetuated through tourism. So since you're in New Orleans, could you speak to that a moment?
There may be some criticism about the commercialization of voodoo, but I think the commercialization does help voodoo in this, mainly if it's presented in a very positive way. And in the United States, we've had the introduction of botanicas from the Cubano culture. In New Orleans, we have voodoo stores. Also, around the country, we have Haitian botanicas, as well as Dominican botanicas. We have New Age stores which also, promote the magical aspect. So I think if it's presented in a very positive way, it's very good for the religion. I see nothing against commercialization.
Well, let's talk about the music again a little bit more. Bill, I know you're an extraordinary drummer, and would you like to just tell us the importance of music in the ritual?
Well, it's really important. I think in most of these systems, and I could be wrong because I'm not researching every aspect every day, all day, every second of my life, but I can only speak to what I have been through musically and doing ceremonies. I have been playing ceremonies for over 40 years in the United States. And when I first started and I first became associated with Vaudou or which, I look at it all as all the same. We're all the same people. I just do, but the drums are very important. In my particular system, you have to have your hands baptized and washed, and you have to go through an initiation ceremony in order to do this. The purpose is that there's a seniority-based kind of system. You have a master, it's like Kung Fu. You have a master, and then you have the disciples. The master passes the information on to his disciples. So there's a few years ago, not a few years ago, maybe 15 years ago, I took 5 young men from New Orleans who were 13, 15, 17, 18, and around that age. I got permission from the young kids' parents to take them to Cuba so that I could train them to play for ceremonies, because these drums did not exist at this particular time in New Orleans. I don't know with the Vaudou system. I really believe that the drums are fed. In fact, I know they're fed, and they have to go through a process. So when a priest is initiated, it's a very lengthy process, and the music is a very important part of it, and I'll explain to you why. In my system, we play what's called the Oro e Vaudou, and this means the rhythms of the deepest forest. We have a series of rhythms that we have to play to open the ceremony. And what that ceremony does, it invites all of the spirits of the universe to come into this one spot. So we start off with Elegua, a rhythm called La Topa. We go to Ogun, the Orisha of war. We go to Ochosi, the hunter. Well, let me just name Elegua in this order: Elegua, Ogun, Ochosi, Obaloke, Inle, Yakota, Babaluaye, Osain, Osun, Obatala, Dada, Oge, Agayu, Orisha Oko, Ibeji, Shango. Then we start with the female deities: Yewa, Oya, Yemaya, Oshun. Then Ifa is saluted with Orumila, and then Oduduwa. And then the next thing that happens in our ceremonial thing, and this is all musical, there is a thing called the Oro Alala, where it's a public kind of ceremony where people are invited to come in. It doesn't matter if you're a part of the religion, and not the religion ain't the right word, but this system. And if people are invited, they come in, and then people dance. Then we start over again and go through those orishas again. And if someone is a practitioner of that particular orisha or loa, if you want to call it, they would come and dance for who controls their head. So I'm a child of Elegua. If I'm not playing and the drums are playing and the songs are singing, I would go up and I would have to be required to do something for Elegua. Okay, so what happens also in the ceremonies, there's this thing that people see on the movies. The music that I grew up with that Africans were playing were on Tarzan movies. Johnny Weissmuller and these Brahma of the Jungle and the very demeaning, very seriously injuring the psyche of our kids, because the only thing they would see is a bunch of white guys with blackface on, with some woolly wigs, and they give them some kind of drums, and they send them from go ooga booga, and that was very, very, very damaging. So for me, it was very important to like uplift this. I think it's very important, this music. So I became a part of this thing, and the music, like I said, when you become a priest in my system, you have to be presented to these drums. In other words, there's a special ceremony, and they call it a presentation to Anya. And this is where your godparents, who initiated you and put an operation on your head to put the orisha in your head, they take you from a room. Your eyes are closed, and your godmother, godfather are on each side of you. There's a guy in the front of him with a plate with 2 coconuts and candles. And then there's a priest in front of him who is ringing a bell, and he's saying, Oro mayoko kuwawu, iyawo kuwawu. And then this procession starts. And they bring it out, and everybody in the congregation is answering this, oh kuwawu, oro mayo, and they bring you in front of the drums. And this person is brought back and forth in a procession, back and forth in front of the drums, while the drummers play a special rhythm for that ceremony. Then they drop that person to the floor. That person's head are put on those coconuts. They're side to side. Then they're raised up. And that raising up, deep day, in Yoruba means to rise. And they bring that person up, and they have to kunanya, which means that they have to put their head on the Iyailu drum and kiss it, and go to the other drums and kiss it. And when they back that person up, they begin to play the rhythm for that particular orisha, and that current controls that person's head, and it's on. So they dance and they spin that person around, and then they rush them out the room. But unless they go through that ceremony, their initiation is not legitimate. So the drums hold the key to the completion of any initiate in my particular sect. The music is it. Without the music, nothing is legitimate.
My introduction into voodoo, I thought, was musical because I was a musician. My mother's Haitian. My mother's a voodoo priestess. She married my father, who was an academic, who was an atheist, and they decided to bring me up as an American kid. And even though I was brought up as an American kid, my mom was teaching Haitian folklore, which is sort of it's a way of taking aspects of voodoo ceremonies and training people to the dance steps, to the rhythms, to the songs. And so I was always exposed to this, but I never really understood what it was. And I would grow up with this stuff, and I'd be listening to the Rolling Stones and Satisfaction on the radio while I was going to the dance school, and then I was listening to the drums in the dance school as a little kid. And I loved them both, but I never understood why there was a separation between the two. And eventually I became a musician, and someone gave me the idea of going back to Haiti to make music with the rhythms, to make dance music with the rhythms, with the voodoo rhythms. But first of all, I didn't realize that the voodoo rhythms that I was going to research were the voodoo rhythms that my mom was playing. I didn't quite ever put that together at first. And second of all, I didn't realize that the voodoo rhythms don't walk alone. The voodoo rhythms walk with the spirits, the voodoo rhythms walk with God, the voodoo rhythms walk with dance steps, the voodoo rhythms walk with ceremonial veves. And so there's a whole, there's a lifestyle that surrounds all of this. And it took, and I learned all this in the public eye because I was living in Haiti. I still live in Haiti. And so I'm putting out songs, and at first people are saying, why is Richard, this white guy, singing our songs, you know? And then over time they realized that there was some kind of reasoning behind it. We still don't know why I'm doing it. but I'm still doing it. And eventually, my dad passed away, and I was up in Washington with my mom, and I had this dream, and they came and gave me these words in the dream, and my mom, pretending that she didn't know what it was about, was she said, well, go ask people. When we get back to Haiti, you'll ask. And I ended up being in Jacmel, a small town in Jacmel, with Madame Nerva. And Madame Nerva said to me, you have to, oh, that's interesting. When I told her the dream, she said, you have to spend 3 days with me. And I have this New England aspect to me, and when she said I have to spend 3 days with her, I thought, well, 1 day before to get here, and 1 day after, that means 5 days. And then she says, well, if you're coming for 5 days, then spend 7 days with me. And I'm thinking, well, 7 days, can I, 1 day before to get here to Jacmel, another, and 9 days. And she says, well, you spend 9 days with me. And what's happening is that I'm going up in rank. And this is all mystical in her head, in how she's interpreting everything I'm answering to her. So I had no, if someone had said, you ought to be a voodoo priest, I would have said, no, thank you, some other time. I spent the 9 days with Madame Nerva, and I got my asson, and I became a priest, and I didn't know that I was becoming a priest, but what it did was it opened doors for me. And it made me understand that there's an order to things, an order to the universe, there's an order to prayer. And so this influenced the songs. But what's important is that what I do as a musician is entertainment. But I open doors for you, because you might say, wow, I've been hearing this awful stuff about this voodoo stuff. And then suddenly, but why are these songs so beautiful? Why are these melodies so beautiful? What are they singing about? And so I'm opening doors for you who don't have access to what I have access to. And so there are a lot of children in Port-au-Prince who don't have access to going to ceremonies, who don't have access to learning about spirits, or don't have access because they're telling you that that's devil worship. And so by listening to these songs, by having these songs come out on the radio, I give access to a bunch of people that never would have had this access to. Even the same, I come to New Orleans, and here we are talking about this stuff that maybe you wouldn't have access to all of this if we weren't somehow doing it. What I try and distinguish is when I'm doing a ceremony, I try and make people understand that this is a ceremony. And when I'm doing the band, I say this is entertainment, this is the band. Or if I'm doing folklore, this is folklore. And so I try and be as honest as I can to people, and there is a distinction between commercial. When I come here with my band next week, it's for everybody just to boogie and dance, and it's not for you to understand that there's a ceremony going on. And if you didn't know it was voodoo-inspired music, you wouldn't have a clue. You wouldn't have a clue that these are traditional rhythms or melodies or songs. You would just think, hey, this is all right, And so there are a lot of misconceptions about it. It's a wonderful thing. It's a positive thing, and in the sense of, you can learn about voodoo by reading the Bible, and because all these religions are interrelated. The whole idea of choice. God gives us choice. This is very much in the same with voodoo. You have the choice. You have a choice to do good. You have a choice to do bad. You have a choice to do your powers to help people, and you have a choice to hurt people. And these are the choices that we make in life, whether we're Protestant, whether we're Muslim, whether we're Buddhist, whether we're voodoo practitioners, whatever. We have choices that we make, and we're either helping people after Katrina, or we're trying to make a buck, or we're helping people after the earthquake, or we're trying to make a buck. And if someone tells you that if you go to a voodoo priest and you tell them you're sick, and they tell you I can cure you and it's going to cost $20,000, then you're being taken for a ride, because it's not about the money.
On that note, ask Mama Lola to talk about the healing tradition, the importance of healing in Voodoo. The importance of healing. Healing in this.
I understand that. Important healing. Sometimes somebody come to see you and what happened? Hello? Okay. And you got something in her or his body and in his body. But you see it. But he don't tell you. But then after you finish with that person or talk to that person, you sit down and talk to that person and he can tell you a problem or his problem. He don't come to you and come in, let somebody come to you, then come in and sit down and tell you nothing. You have to find out what is coming for, what is coming to see you for. So let you with her or him, then you start to talk to him and he's open or she open. You understand? You don't come in and tell you, oh, Mama Lola, so and so, so and so, so and so, so and so. It's very important. Very, very, very good. I'm in love with that.
So, do you yourself play any music? Do you sing the songs?
I sing.
You sing
I
the
sing.
songs? Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I beat the drum, but I'm not too good. I'm not too good.
And when you speak to also the fact that certain deities have certain songs, would you talk about that for a moment? Certain rhythms and certain songs?
I feel
with various deities.
Some kind of song that I feel it, I think about my family or friend. Or I feel like I'm just like that. I say, get together and stand up in my head. You understand?
In a traditional ceremony, you're going through, after you've gone through certain prayer parts, you get into the song part, and which is the part that most people like to go to because it's the most fun part. But as you go through the deities, you're singing 3 songs for each deity. And so, and you're usually doing 2 Yambalu rhythms and a Mahi rhythm.
Yes.
Until you get to the Petro part. So you start with each spirit, and then you give 3 songs for them. If someone
the Wada.
in the Rada.
You start at the Wada. Yes.
And then once you go through all the spirits in the Rada, then you finish up with the Nago, and then you go into the Petro.
Petro. Yes.
And so you're singing songs for each of the deities, and there's a particular order. But if you're going through the order and someone gets possessed by someone who's out of order, then you'll sing songs for that spirit, and when that spirit goes away, then you go back to where you were in the order. So it's very systematic.
Let me tell you something. Sometimes you do some ceremony or singing, the spirit is so rude, and they come to you and you don't even know what you're doing anymore. That's not your fault. You understand what I mean? Yes.
Well, we're going to end the session, but is there anything you might want to say to our audience here about the religion of Voodoo? Something you want to leave them with?
Let me tell you, guy, sometimes you don't have to come to see a voodoo priest or a voodoo man for somebody who's sick or somebody who hurt you. No, you can't come to see anybody for help. Maybe you can find no job. If you come in and you see somebody, maybe they help you to find work. If you come in, they will help you to find work. You don't have to come to any voodoo priestess or voodoo man to do anything. You can find the work. You go, fill your application, and they say, oh, you come in next week. But maybe if you take some bath and you do what you have to do, maybe next time you come in, they hire you. And you don't know, the spirit help you for them to hire you. That's what I can say.
Well, thank you very much. Let's thank our audience. Audience, please thank our panelists.
Thank you very much.
And we'll take maybe 1 or 2 questions. We still have time. We don't have we don't have one coming after us, so, okay.
Lola, can you sing us a Lola song?
Là, j'entends chanter.
Okay. Sing. What you want me to sing?
No, it's yours. It's up to you.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me sing the Loa. Okay. Loa, oh, les lois. Thank you very much.
Now will you tell us what they said?
What
Translate
say?
it for us.
What I sing?
Yes.
Let you call the Lord sometime. You try to call the spirit. Try. I don't know what the spirit may be. They don't want to come, and somebody want to see the spirit. And you sing that song, and you pour, you make a libation with water, or clear, or warm, and they have to come in like your candle, or bougie. The Lord come in with your heart. But you have to say it with your heart. Everything you do to get improvement, if you don't do it with your heart, don't do it. If you say, oh, maybe I do it, don't you do it, because you have a doubt. But if you say, okay, let me sing some song, let me pour some libation for the Lord will come. Thank you.
Any burning questions? Okay. A little louder, please. What does Geechee mean? Geechee. 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 It's a, well,
Okay, that's a word used for the Africans who landed along the sea islands on the coast of Georgia, South Carolina. And they mostly were Congo people, and they practiced root magic, and herbal, medicinal healing practices. So the word Geechee is referred to the colored people in that area of the United States, called the Sea Islands along the coast of Georgia, South Carolina. Okay?
okay, anybody else? All right, well, let's thank our panelists again. Thank you so much for coming. I'd also like to announce the next panel that's coming. No, actually, I think Gage is going to do he's going to do a lecture on the Alan Lomax collection from Haiti. So that's the next one. It's at, I think, 4 o'clock. I mean, 5 o'clock. 4:30, I'm sorry. Oh, it's at 4:30.